We'll start the class with 3 ohms. Sahana bhavatu sahanau bhunaktu sahaviryam karavavahai tejasvinavaditamastu ma viddishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Welcome to the 4th session of Tattva Bodha. Just a quick summary of what we have discussed. Yes. So just a quick summary of what we have discussed so far. The 5 chapters of Tattva Bodha are divided into following sections. Verse number 1 to 7 expresses the qualifications. 8 to 16 discusses the inquiry of the individual. That means, who am I? And then 17 to 26, the third portion of this text, inquires into the totality of this entire cosmos. What is this cosmos? What is this universe? What is this world I am experiencing? The 4th section is what we are going to discuss today. Verse number 27 to 31. It is an inquiry into oneness of the individual and total. The last portion is 32 to 38. What is the benefit of knowledge? So the last section is the 5th section, which is from verse 32 to 38, which describes what is the benefit of this knowledge as far as I am concerned, who is living in this world. And the main aspects what we have discussed were the human goals, and the most important here is Dharma and Moksha. Dharma means at all times, from birth to death, we have to do our duty. There is no doubt that at any point of time, one can give off one's duty in this world. Artha is the wealth you earn. Kama is enjoyment in this life. Moksha is the last goal. Once a person has followed Dharma, that means he has not given up his duty as a Jiva, as a soul in this world. We are supposed to do our duty to our own self, to our family, to the country, and to the world at large. So that at any point of time, one cannot have a doubt. Even after getting this knowledge, one cannot say, I don't have any duty in this life. One must continue his duty as per his ashrama. Ashrama means, if you are a grihastha means a householder, you follow the duty of a householder. If you are a student like a brahmachari, you follow the duties of the student. If you are in old age, which is called as vanaprastha, you have seen the life, then you retire and study. You study the scriptures. And the last is moksha. That means you are ready to renounce everything mentally. That means, and study how I can realize myself. These are the 4 goals in short. And the most important goal is to have fulfillment in life. At every point of time, we will find that I lack something. I lack some happiness I lack some fulfillment in me. I lack some happiness from the world. It could be in the family, it could be in the external world, or it could be with your friends. I lack something, therefore I need to act. I need to, and we always look at the world to fulfill our requirements. What Vedanta tells us is this whole universe is a moving phenomena. It is anitya. Anitya means it's temporary. From a temporary world, I cannot expect to get permanent happiness. All our requirements, if you see to the core, at the core, we will realize that we are all looking for permanent happiness, and we are also looking for something which will make me eternal. Eternal means I want to live. I want to live all the time. This is a universal phenomena. It's a universal desire for all human beings of all races. Here is where the scriptures tell us, don't look for this peace and happiness outside in the world, which is a temporary phenomena, but look inside into your own self. That is the journey which we are trying to make, and it is a continuous journey. It is not something which we can finish in 1 week and say, yes, I have done Tattva Bodha, therefore I have realized myself. No. This is a long journey, and this text is the first text which one is prescribed to take if one is interested in knowing oneself, knowing the world, and also to seek happiness in life and get rid of sorrow. So that is a small introduction to the goals. Then we had discussed the Om chart, which is the inquiry into the individual self. That means, who am I as an individual? And here we had discussed that I have 2 identities. One identity is without the body, mind, and intellect, and another identity is with the body, mind, and intellect. Whenever there is a body, mind, and intellect is identified, there is a cause for it. And that cause, we have seen, is called as vasana, or it's also called as unmanifest condition, which is what we experience in sleep. So I have 2 conditions. One is a sleeping condition when I am identified only with the vasanas. It's an unmanifest condition. And then I have a waking condition, which is where I'm identified with the body, gross body, mind, and intellect. Through these 3 mediums, instruments, I become an ego, perceiver, feeler, and thinker. When I am perceiver, I am perceiving objects in the universe through my gross sense organs. Then, when I'm a feeler of emotions in my mind. And then When I'm a thinker, I am thinking thoughts, vrittis. The objects, emotions, and thoughts are called as prameyam. Prameyam means objects. And the perceiver, feeler, thinker is called as a karta or bhokta. That means the ego I. And what is the body? We must not forget it is an instrument given to me by the Lord or the Lord who controls the 5 elements. Because the body, mind, and intellect are made up of 5 elements. And the scriptures tell me that the entire 5 elements are the cause of the 5 elements, or the controller of the 5 elements is a very, very powerful, either you can call it God or an entity or a supreme or whatever it is. So I am just a mixture of the 5 elements, and also I have a second personality which is called as Atma, which is given or it's shown here as Om. All right, so this in brief was the Jiva, the individual. Then the next inquiry we did was about the world. This is what we discussed last week, the third topic. Here we inquired the totality of the whole universe. So earlier we said the individual consists of 2 parts. One is the consciousness part, and the second is the matter, body, mind, and intellect. Here also, we say that the whole universe, when you take the whole universe into consideration and you inquire, the method of inquiry you have to follow is that there is a conscious principle, a consciousness principle who is aware of this world. And that we call it as Brahman or God or the Supreme, whatever you call it. So there has to be an awareing principle. You might ask, what if there is no awareing principle of the universe? If there is no awareness principle of the universe, if everything is inert, then there is no necessity and there is no value for this universe because it's just pure matter. So matter by itself cannot form the whole universe. Matter has to be presided over by consciousness. So the whole totality, when we study as 2 portions. One is the awareing principle called as consciousness, which is ever the same. It never undergoes a change. And then the changing matter in the whole cosmos. The scriptures tell us that it is called as Prakriti in Sanskrit or nature in English. This nature, the rishis have discovered it has got 3 gunas, 3 properties. Here when we say nature, it means a primordial matter, not what we see today outside as nature. This is before what we see was formed. What we see is a formed universe. The formless universe is called as Maya or Prakriti, and it consists of 3 gunas which are invisible. Sattva stands for knowledge, Rajas stands for action, and Tamas stands for inertia. So everything in creation is coming from this principle called as gunas, properties, nature. As such, everything in the universe will have these 3 gunas. It will be a mixture of these 3 gunas in different proportions. When we look at a mountain or a river or any stone, it will be full of tamas, 100%, 99% tamas. 1% sattva and rajas. When we look at plants, they will be a little bit rajasic. They can move, they can shake, they can move along with the wind. It has action, and it has also got tamas. The plants have a tamasic quality and a rajasic quality and very less sattvic quality. Then when it comes to human beings, we have a bigger mixture. Maybe we have 33% sattva, 33% rajas, and 33% tamas. That means a higher proportion. The whole universe has got these three. And this is, each one of us can analyze, am I in my sattvic mood now? Sattvic mood means the mind has got three gunas of sattva, rajas, and tamas. Normally in the morning when we get up, we will find ourselves trying to understand, trying to learn new things, and trying to see, our knowledge aspect is the best in the morning, and that is the time people say that I'm very sattvic. Rajasic means the moment 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock comes, we are all ready to go to the office, and then we are acting throughout the day. So all 7 to 8 hours of the time, we are all rajasic, active. Why are we active? Because the nature which has built me up consists of rajasic nature. It's got activity in it, in its causal form. As night comes, we are very tamasic, and we go to sleep. So the 5 elements in my body, which constitutes my individual body, consists of sattva, rajas, and tamas. Therefore, the entire gross universe, we say, is tamasic. The subtle universe is, before the grossification of the 5 elements, the subtle elements were existing in invisible form. Last week we saw what is the difference between gross and the subtle. If you remember the Panchikaranam, the process of merging of the elements, dividing into 1/8, 1/8, 1/8, 1/8, and adding on to the half portion of each element. So the subtle universe consisted of the organs of perception and organs of action. So this was one format of the universe which we saw last week. Then we also went into the details of the elements, and we said the Akasha, the space principle, has got only one sukshma. It has got one property. Therefore, we said that is the most subtlest of the aspects out of the 5 elements. The space is supposed to be the subtlest of creation. Then it was Vayu. Vayu means air principle. It has got 2 properties, sparsha and shabda. Sparsha means touch, shabda means sound. So these 2 is coming out from the air principle. Then if you go down, the grossest has got 5 properties: touch, sound, form, taste, and smell. Therefore, we say that the earth element is got all the 5, a mixture of all the 5 elements, and it has got the properties of the 5 elements together. What we call it gross in Vedanta, or the science of philosophy of trying to discover the Atma, is gross means what is recognized by more sense organs. Subtle means what is recognized by less sense organs. And this whole process is, it's a process of evolution. It takes a long time for the whole universe to come out, and then the living beings come into the universe, and they all evolve slowly. Each one of us is also evolving in this creation. The main part of our evolution lies in the mind. Our mind is growing every day. Our mind is discovering, it's getting sharpened every day. It not only stops in this birth, the mind continues again and again till it finds its final home, which is called as the Om principle, which is called as the consciousness principle. It is not an accident that you have a liking for this topic and then you suddenly came and, you know, it's not an accident that I have started teaching this. There is some law in creation, and this law brings us together. This law takes us away from each other. That is what is called as the law of karma, which we will explain next week. Okay, so this chart tells us how the Sattva guna forms the 5 elements, and then it also forms the organs, which are the ear, skin, the eyes, tongue, and nose. And the Rajoguna of the Maya principle or the matter principle is responsible for the organs of action, and these are all the different functions. As I said, the mind has got 3 gunas, and it is always a mixture of 3 gunas. Right from morning to evening, the mind keeps on changing. So never complain that I'm very tamasic today. Never complain. It's a part of nature. If I'm feeling very active, it's again the part of the 5 elements, a combination of the 5 elements in this body. Okay, so that was in short what we have discussed in 3 topics before. Today we are going to go to a new topic, and this topic is called as the inquiry into the oneness of the individual jiva, which is the soul, individual soul, and its oneness with the totality. Totality means either you can call it Ishvara or God, or you can call it as Allah, or you can call it as Buddha, whatever you want to call it, the totality which is in this universe. They say there is oneness in this whole universe. This universe is not divisible. There is one factor in this universe which controls this whole cosmos. Anyway, we'll study this as we go by. Now, what I'm going to do first is to run through the verses which Shankaracharya has given in this topic 4. And then I have a few slides which I will explain. Those slides will explain these verses a little bit more in depth. Verse number 26 says, there is an identity between Pindanda means individual, microcosm, that means me, the self, who is trying to understand this text, and Brahmanda. Brahmanda means the macrocosm. So microcosm is the individual, the totality is called as macrocosm. See, we have to always go through the process of how the scriptures teach us to understand this world. We may have our own tendencies to understand, oh, I want to know myself and what is this and so on, but that is not the right way. So there is a methodology which we need to follow if we have to arrive at the goal. So the microcosm and macrocosm, there is an identity. That is what the first verse says. The next verse says, the reflection as it were of Brahman, or that consciousness principle, in Sukshma Sharira, that means in the mind, which identifies itself with the gross body is called as the Jiva. This is a very important definition. This Jiva by nature is ignorant about the original nature, and takes the total Ishvara to be different from himself. That's what it says. So who am I? Initially, the first definition of who am I is, I am a reflected consciousness in this gross body, in this mind. So I have a mind, and there is a consciousness which exists by itself. This mind has got a reflection of that consciousness, and once I identify with this mind, I become an individual, either a Ramesh or a Rohit or a Suvarna or a Jacqueline, whatever it is. It is nothing but a reflected consciousness in the mind. The Jiva, that means this reflected consciousness, is created because of ignorance of the original consciousness. Anyway, this ignorance principle you will understand a little later in this spiritual science. As of now, it's best to understand I am that mind which has got a consciousness reflected in it. Verse 28 says the consciousness Atma is conditioned by upadhi. Upadhi means it is conditioned by avidya. Avidya means ignorance. So this consciousness which exists by itself, when it comes into this mind, it is got a conditioning of ignorance in it, which is called again the Jiva. The pure consciousness is the original nature. We will see how to go to that original nature. It's not so difficult, but we will, once we go through this process, you will understand that. The awareness which is conditioned by this Maya. Maya means the mind. Maya means the mind. I just said that mind consists of 3 gunas. The awareness conditioned by 3 gunas at the totality level is called as Ishvara. Ishvara means total. So Jiva and Ishvara, these are the two. They are the 2 entities in this entire universe. And both are created, both are coming from one consciousness principle. That's what it says in the 29th verse. The 30th verse, so long as the notion, which is due to the difference in the condition, that Jiva and Ishvara are different, there is no redemption from samsara. That means this whole cycle of birth and death will continue. That means as long as I am thinking, I am this mind, I am this body, and the totality is away from me, and it is separate from me, Shankaracharya says, birth and death will continue. Birth and death means samsara. Samsara in Sanskrit means bondage to this body, bondage to the mind. I need to be free from this bondage of the mind and the body, and then realize my oneness with the totality. That is what is the journey. And the only way we can conduct this journey is through knowledge. There is no other means of removing this bondage of the body and the mind with consciousness. Verse 31 says that due to that reason, the notion that Jiva is different from the totality, Ishvara, should not be accepted. So what Shankaracharya is saying is, if you want to come out of this bondage of the mind, you need to be identified with one consciousness principle, which is the cause from where this entire world of the jivas, world of the people world of this entire world rises from, and then where it goes back. That core cause is what we need to understand to be able to come out of this bondage. Therefore, we need to ask, who am I? And then when I ask this question, the guru, the teacher says, that reality you are. That reality means that consciousness is what you are, is the teaching. Then the student says, how can I be that reality? Because I, the Jiva, have got the mind. I have an ego. And my knowledge is very limited. I know only about Singapore. I don't know what's happening in America, what's happening in India. I don't know. My knowledge is very limited. Whereas Ishvara is the totality. He is a reflected consciousness of the entire universe. And he has no ego. And he is all knowledge. That means whatever is going on in the world, he knows. How can there be an identity or oneness? That is the question a student asks between two contradictory characteristics. That means one which is limited Jiva with limited body and mind, and the totality, which is the total body, body of the universe, plus the total mind, which is called as the Hiranyagarbha principle, who is responsible and who is behind the sun, to whom we pray in our Gayatri mantra. He is the total, the sun represents the total mind of the entire universe. So how can there be equality? How can there be oneness? To that, the verse number 33 says, this is a teaching of the scriptures. It says that the literal meaning of the word thou is the one who identifies with the gross and subtle bodies. That is the Jiva. So here, the guru, the teacher says, if you take the literal meaning of you, then that you or I, the literal meaning stands for only the gross and the subtle body. Whereas the implied meaning of you is the pure consciousness, the pure awareness principle, which we are in our sleep condition, which we are resting in our sleep condition. The pure nature of mind, which is free from all the conditionings of the body, and which is appreciated also in the state of samadhi. That means in samadhi, what happens is the mind is resting. There is no vikalpa in the mind. When you say samadhi, it means there are no thoughts in the mind. The thoughts have died down. So in that condition, what happens is, I am my true nature. I am as objectless awareness. In me, the awareness principle, there is no object at all, neither the object of body, mind, intellect, or sense organs, or the universe. So verse number 34 says, the literal meaning of the word that, so 33 talks about the individual, 34 talks about that. That means thou art that. Tat tvam asi. So here, tat principle is defined. So here the totality is defined as having omniscience. Omniscience means total knowledge of the whole universe. Ishvara is supposed to have the knowledge of all the minds. All the minds, what is going on, he knows. Because he is the one who ultimately gives the results of our actions. The implied meaning of the word that means the implied meaning of Ishvara or God is the pure awareness principle, free of the conditioning of the entire prapancha, of the entire universe of five elements. There is an entity which is free from that, which is called as pure consciousness or pure awareness, without the upadhi. Upadhi means without the medium of the bodies or the world. Slowly, the teacher is explaining to us how I should see this universe as one principle of consciousness. Then he says there is no contradiction regarding the identity between the Jiva and Ishvara from the standpoint of awareness. When you look at the Jiva and the Ishvara principle, that means the individual and the totality, when you look at from the individual point of view, we will say that yes, there is a difference between the individual and the totality. Now, so that these are the verses which we have to understand today. This is topic 4. It explains to us that there is oneness in creation. That oneness is called as consciousness. That oneness is our goal. That oneness is what we achieve by doing Omkara meditation, which I will explain towards the end of the class today. Now, how do I try to go a little bit more deeper into this inquiry principle? I have a few slides. Let me just go through them so that whatever we have discussed or whatever we have discussed in these verses from 27 to 34th verse, we are going to try to understand a little bit more deeper. I went through the descriptions of giving you the word meaning. Now I'm trying to go back and trying to understand what the overall context is. The first thing which a teacher tells us is what is our concept of this universe. Normally, we say that there are only two types of, there's only two things in this universe, which is called as, one is called as Sat, another is called as Asat. Sat means that there are certain things existent in this world, and there are certain things which are non-existent in the world. Okay, so this is a broad definition which we know as normal human beings. That's what we know. Before we come to the science of spirituality, normally we will only know that a hot ice cream doesn't exist. Flowers in the sky doesn't exist. So whatever it doesn't exist, we call it as shunyam. That means it is nothing, doesn't exist. Tucham, or it can never be experienced. Whatever is not experienced is non-existent, is our basic fundamental definition of the universe. And what is existent? Body is existent, mind is existent, the world is existent. Therefore, we say body, mind, and world, they are existent, and whatever I said just now, the other things are non-existent, like a rabbit's horn or a horn on a human being or a son of a barren woman. These are all examples of non-existent principle. When we come to understand the spiritual principle in us, the teacher tells us that this vision is defective. What you're saying as existent is defective, because what you're saying as being experienced, what is experienced is what is existent. Now he introduces a third category called as mithya. This is a very, very important principle to understand when we are in the spiritual field. And it is this principle which separates what we are learning through this methodology from other philosophies. So what here the teacher tells us is that there is a third category called as seemingly existent. This seemingly existent principle is not, it is existent, it is neither we can say it is existent, neither we can say it is non-existence. But it appears to exist and it is experienced sometime. Examples are our dream. So when we get up in the morning, we can say, when we ask the question, was the dream existent? No, because as soon as I wake up, it's not there. Was it non-existent? No, it was not non-existent because I experienced it. So there is a third principle in this universe which is called as seemingly existent. Suppose you see a snake on a rope, that is also comes under seemingly existent. Because rope is existent, we are seeing a superimposition of a snake on a rope. That is what is called as mithya. Mithya means falsely existing. It is falsely existing because it is experienceable but is not 100% existent. It is seemingly existent. Similarly, other examples they say is mirage water on sand. Suppose you are in a desert and then you see mirage there, and then you see on the sand, you see something like a water, a cesspool, and then that is again, it's an illusion. Extending this principle, the guru says, the teacher says, Shankaracharya will say, our ego is also mithya. Mithya means it exists for some time and then it disappears. In sleep, where is the ego? There's no ego in sleep. That means it was existing in time and then it went off. Similarly, the dream ego also disappeared. The sleeper ego also disappears. All our thoughts are also which comes and goes. So there is a category called as mithya category, which is relatively existent. Relatively existence means it is available in a particular state of consciousness. It is not there in the other state of consciousness. In dream, the entire waking world is not there. In waking, the entire dream world is not there. In sleep, the whole dream world and the waking world both are not there. Therefore, what the rishis have found is that the world which we are seeing right before us is a seemingly existent, it is a vyavaharika satyam. That means it's an empirical reality, but not an absolute reality. So, and what is the definition of Sat? Sat, according to this principle, is something which is always existing. What is existent, always existent, is I, the Atma. It is always there in the past. When I was a child, it remained the same. When I became an adult, it was the same. And then when I became old, it remained the same. So in all the three periods of time, it has not changed. That is called as consciousness. That is called as Satyam. In one of the Upanishads, it is called as Satyasya Satyam. That means if you say body and mind is Satyam, this Atma is Satyasya Satyam. That means it's the truth of the truth. And it is formless in nature. I can't see that Atma. I know that I am that Atma, but I can never see it in front of me with my eyes, because it is the cause of the cause. Without that Atma, there is neither waking, dream, or sleep. So that Atma is supposed to be the substratum for the entire universe. So this is how one one step in the direction to understanding the world. So in this principle, what we are saying is that the world is appearance, the appearance of the world. In the appearance of the world, there is a consciousness which always exists, and the mind has three conditions. It is waking, dream, and sleep. When the mind is an active form, it is called as waking, the sense organs are illumined, then the world is experienced. In the semi-active, it's called as dream. A dream condition is where the mind is only active, the sense organs are not active. So it is just a projection of the mind. Only the projection of mind is called as the dream condition. And passive condition is the condition of sleep, when neither the mind is active or neither the neither the sense organs are active, neither the mind is active. So that condition is called as the sleep condition. So the mind is active, semi-active, or passive. These three conditions come and go in every birth. The birth and death is nothing but these three conditions of the mind. Continuous activity, which is called as prakriti, which is called as nature, which is called as maya, which is called as matter. Besides this matter, what always exists is consciousness, which is my true self. I am aware. I am aware. That awareness principle does not change when the mind changes. Yesterday I was aware. Last week I was aware. Today I am aware. Tomorrow I will be aware. I was aware when my mind was projecting the dream. I was aware when the mind became passive and the mind went to sleep. How do you say that I was aware? Because as soon as I get up in the morning, if somebody asks us, how was your sleep? You say, very good. If you say my sleep was very good, there has to be a witness of that condition of the mind, which was sleeping. Without the witness, you cannot say, you cannot remember, you will not be able to remember the condition of sleep. But we all remember our condition of sleep and say, I had a very peaceful sleep. I was very happy. I was not identified with the entire universe, but I was happy. So when our identification shifts from waking world to the dream world to the sleep world, and then finally, when there is no identification with any of the worlds, that is our true state of happiness. It is our real state of peace. It is our state without the medium of the body and the mind and the universe. This is another way to look at this universe. In one of the verses, they talked about indicative meaning and the descriptive meaning. This slide will explain to us. The Brahman or consciousness is called as Sat Chit Ananda. I have discussed this before. The definition is I am always there. This is called as Lakshyartha. The Lakshyartha means my indicative definition is pure consciousness. From that indicative consciousness, we are bringing in two entities. One is Jiva, another is Ishvara. When we are talking about this universe, when we look at the Jiva principle, it has got Vachyartha, which means a descriptive, which is a word meaning, and a Lakshyartha. Lakshyartha means indicative meaning. So when we say that if it is identified with the body, it is called as with guna, with form. So when I use the word I am Ramesh or I am Shiva, I am so and so, I am referring to the body which is with form. That is called as the Vachyartha or the descriptive meaning of I. What is the indicative meaning of I? Indicating a meaning of I is, it's called as Lakshyartha. That means it is not descriptive, but it is indicating me as Atma. That indicative meaning is always with the formless, always with the consciousness principle. The same thing when we do the Lord with the form, it is called as Vachyartha. Vachyartha means word meaning. Lakshyartha means the same Lord or the same totality without the form, when it is taken as formless, because ultimately the whole universe consists of form and formless. What is formless? Formless is our mind. We don't see the mind because it's formless. It's invisible. So we cannot negate the mind, but we say both form and formless constitute the entire universe. And what is that consciousness? It is beyond form and formless. We cannot define it as form. We cannot say that consciousness is with form. That is why if you ask anybody, who were you in the sleep? The only answer he can say is, I am Satchidananda, or I am beyond name and form. That is why they say that this Atma can never be defined by words, but it can be understood and claimed as my real nature. So this is another chart explaining to you what we have discussed from verse 27 to 34. Okay. I have about 10 minutes, so I'm going to take two methodologies of how this oneness is being described in two different texts in the scriptures. One text is called as Mandukya Upanishad, and the other text is called as Bhagavad Gita. These are two beautiful texts. If people are interested, if there is some continuity, we will try and see that in the future. But here the slide will tell us how this Upanishads are very, very old in scriptures. That is the source of the entire Bhagavad Gita. It is a source for entire spiritual science, which we are discussing. I mean, I can give you a talk on Upanishads at a later point of time. What is Upanishad and how many Upanishads are there, and each one, what does it reveal, and so on. Let us focus on this oneness, identity. This Upanishad is one of the best texts, which consists of only 12 verses, and it is the easiest way to claim ourselves as Atma. How does it do? How does it show this? The Upanishad says that my nature, when I say I have got two conditions. One condition is with a dress and one is without the dress. The dress is nothing but a medium. When I am without the dress of the body, mind, and intellect, that is called as Sakshi, pure consciousness, without the three bodies, without the three states, without the five koshas. For people who have heard Tattva Bodha, this is the definition of Atma in verse number 9. And this condition of mind is permanent, eternal, immortal, never dies. Formless nature. I need to claim this and free myself of all the sorrows in life. It's possible, people have done it, and it's possible that you and I can do it also. The second nature of mine is with the dresses. When I am with the gross body, I am called as a waker I. There are Sanskrit names which I'm not confusing with. I'm just giving you a simple description of the Mandukya Upanishad. So the same I, which is pure consciousness, when it is identified with the gross body and the sense organs, it is called as the waker I, or if you want to know the name given by the scriptures, it is called as Vishwa. Then the same I with another dress of only the mind but not the sense organs. Because only when I have the sense organs and I am identified with the sense organs and the mind, then I become the waker. Either if I don't have the sense organs, at that time I'm called as the dreamer. And I experience a dream universe, and it is the mind's projections. It is not created by the Lord. It is created by me. It is called as Jiva Srishti. That means it is created by the individual mind. So that identification with my mind alone is called as Taijasa in Sanskrit, or it's just called one more name for me, dreamer I. The third condition with my dress, he is the causal body. This dress consists of only the causal body. Causal body, which we have discussed in the past, is the one where all my impressions are stored. It is where all the impressions, all my knowledge is stored. All the knowledge in my intellect is stored, my English knowledge. When I wake up in the morning, I still remember my English. I can speak Tamil, I can speak my Hindi, and so on. So all that is stored where? It is stored in the causal body. So when I'm identified with the causal body, which is an unmanifest condition of the body and the mind, it is called as the sleeper I. And in this condition, what happens? The mind and the sense organs have come into passive condition. The scriptures tell us that this condition of these three dresses which I wear, it cannot exist, very important factor, it cannot exist without this, I the Sakshi. There is no independent existence of the causal body, no independent existence of the dream body without the I, which is the consciousness. There is no independent existence of the waker. Because these three doesn't have independent existences, we say that they are mithya. Mithya means, I explained to you before, appearances, which can be experienced, but they are not absolute. What is absolute is this consciousness principle, which is without any dress of the body, mind, or intellect, or the universe. So with this is the oneness which is revealed in the Mandukya Upanishad, a very beautiful Upanishad, a very beautiful text to understand who am I. Then we look at Bhagavad Gita, very, very simple. I'm going to give you a simple how the oneness is revealed in this text. What the Bhagavad Gita, the text called Bhagavad Gita does is it says that the universe is a mixture of the individual and the total. The mixture of Prakriti, which is called as nature, and Purusha, which is called as consciousness. Prakriti means in Sanskrit nature. Purusha means consciousness. Purusha here does not mean male. It means Purusha means it's a name for consciousness. So it says that there is only two things. So I need to separate the Prakriti part of mine, which is with gunas of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, and then see myself as without gunas, as pure consciousness. That is the principle of Gita. That is how oneness is being shown in the Bhagavad Gita. This Purusha of that Bhagavad Gita is also explained in another Upanishad called as Chandogya Upanishad. This is another way to see it. Very similar, and it says, another way, a similar way is Tat Tvam Asi. Tat stands for you. That stands for that Lord principle, the total. Tvam stands for the individual, and Asi stands for the oneness. That total is also divided into with gunas and without gunas. The individual is also with gunas and without gunas. And the oneness is only when we see the without guna of the total, without guna of the individual, and that is what is called as pure consciousness. This pure consciousness is the intrinsic nature of all of us. Heat in a water is not the intrinsic nature of water. Suppose you leave the water, boiled water, for 2 hours, the heat goes away. The heat in the fire is the intrinsic principle of fire. You cannot have a fire without heat. So that is how we say you cannot have a human being without consciousness. You can have a dead body without consciousness because the mind has left, the reflected consciousness has left. But you cannot have only you cannot have the inert world without the consciousness principle. That is what is said in Tattvamasi in Chandogya Upanishad, which again gives us a beautiful description of this oneness. To see this oneness is where we have to transform slowly our mind, because our mind is not used to seeing oneness, it is used to seeing variety. It is used to seeing the variety of trees, plants, planets, earth, human beings, animals, so much of variety in this universe. But what the scripture says, this whole variety of universe is held by one principle called as pure consciousness. And that is my goal. This chart, okay, so far we have seen all the, this whole chapter of oneness, we have almost finished. Just to give you a very quick understanding of how the mind works, this is a small little diagram. To understand, each one of us can understand this, because once we have understood what the Atma is, and then we can understand this chart very nicely. Atma is compared to a sunlight. You assume that there is a sunlight up in the space, and then you have a small mirror outside the door, outside the window, and the window is open of a house. Without the mirror, inside the room it's very dark. And you keep a mirror outside. The mirror, it's a luminous in nature. It reflects the sunlight, and therefore the reflected sunlight can illumine the room inside, and the room can become bright. If you have understood this example, by itself the mirror is not bright, or it is not luminous. It is not shining. It is not. It cannot reflect the light. It cannot by itself. It cannot. It is not. It cannot make the room luminous. Once the Surya, that means once the Surya's reflection is formed in that mirror, and that reflection is brought into the room, then the room becomes bright. The luminous mirror becomes shining. We have to imagine a similar situation in this universe. The universe is dark room without our mind. When our mind is not lit, it is in passive condition, in sleep, we cannot experience the universe. We don't experience our own self. We don't experience our body. We don't experience our mind. We don't experience our intellect. And the sense organs we don't experience. That is the dark room. When this mind is illumined by Atma's light, when it wakes up, what wakes up the mind is karma. This mind has to do certain actions in a particular day. As soon as the action is over, it will go to a passive condition. Again, the next day it will come and it will come back into action. When this mind comes in front of the light of Atma, which is always there, I am this light of Atma. I am the illuminating consciousness principle. This mind wakes up and then it gets this light of consciousness. This light is like the electricity which can illumine all the sense organs, and then we can see the dark room of the universe completely lit up. This is what happens in the example, and this is how the mind works. The sunlight is luminous, bright object by itself. The mirror, once the reflection is formed, the reflected sun is available in the mirror. The mirror becomes a bright, luminous object, and then it can illumine the entire sense organs and the world. It has mirror by itself has no light of its own. It has no power of its own. This power is given by Atma. This power of the mind is given by Atma. The reflected mind at an individual level is called as the Jivatma. It's a small reflection. In the whole universe, it's called as Paramatma or Ishvara, which is a big reflection. And this is what I explained to you, that the Atma activates the mind. A minor vibration happens in the mind. All of you, if you are very, very observant, when you get up in the morning, the first thing which happens to all of us is a small vibration in our mind. A small vibration. This small vibration is the creation of the Jiva, which happens every day to all of us. It is the mind which wakes up first. We are not aware of the body, but we are aware of the mind first. And that is called as the I factor, ahamkara, ego. The I thought comes first. After the I thought comes, I am this body, I have the sense organs. It happens in a split second. Immediately the sense organs are open, they're active. Eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin. And then I start seeing the whole world of form, sound, smell, taste, and touch. This is how the waking world is perceived every day by every jiva in this world. And during this part, what happens is the mind is activated. In the sleep, the whole world of this form, sense, and all, they come back to the sense organs. The sense organs get folded up in the mind. The mind rests with Atma. Atma or God or whatever you call it is that principle where all the jivas are resting in sleep. That is the security, that is the peace, that is where we can find our home, our real home. If we know more about this Atma, the more peaceful, the more happy, the more fulfilled I will be. And that is the goal of our life. This is a chart. After having understood this entire discussion so far, now you can understand this oneness between Jiva and the totality Ishvara, Jiva and Paramatma. How it happens is there is a gross body, subtle body, and causal body. They're called as reflecting mediums 1, 2, and 3. Then each of them have a consciousness in them, which is the reflected conscious 1, 2, 3, that is at the Jiva level. When it is at the gross body, as I said, it is called as Vishva. When it is at the subtle level, it is called as Taijasa. When it is at causal level, it is called as Prajna. The same at the totality level is called, at the gross level, Virat, Hiranyagarbha at the subtle level, and Antaryami at the total level. This chart which you see is the entire explanation of the Mandukya Upanishad, which has got almost like 350 verses. It takes almost like a year to study what I have taught you just in 10 minutes. It takes a year to study one of that Upanishads with all the commentaries in it. But if you want to study only the 12 verses, it can be done in about 12 weeks. All this only tells us that there is oneness, and there is oneness, and there is Advaitam. That means there is no Dvaitam. I must be able to see the oneness in this universe as Atma, and that is the goal of this entire study. In conclusion, this is the last slide for today for this lecture 4. I am Atma Chaitanyam, one original consciousness, manifesting in two mediums, which is the first medium is called as Sharira Trayam. That means the three individual bodies, gross, subtle, and causal, and then called as Tvampada, that means Jivatma, and then in the totality, it is called as Prapancha Trayam. That means it is gross matter in the whole universe, gross, subtle, and causal universe. And then when I am reflected in that medium, it is called as the totality, or which is also called as Paramatma. Seeing this one consciousness, common substratum principle between these two Atmas is the final goal. If I can see this through meditation initially, and then finally through knowledge, then I have reached my goal. I have known myself, I have known the entire universe. We started this entire discussion of Tattva Bodha with two questions. How do I get rid of sorrow? This is the way to get rid of sorrow. Sorrow is not is dissolved. It is not solved, but dissolved. When I identify with the Atma, who am I? The question is answered. I am that Atma, which is beyond the three bodies, beyond the five koshas, beyond the three states of consciousness. This lecture 4 is the most important talk in this entire series of 5 sessions. Next week, we are going to conclude Tattva Bodha by discussing the last topic, and that is the topic of freedom. Once I get this knowledge, what is the benefit? That is what is going to be discussed next week. And also we will be discussing what is the law of karma. If my nature is Atma, then how can I give explanation to the experiences of life? That is called as the law of karma, law of action, which we will see next week. Before I conclude, I want to give you a small presentation of one of the questions which came up last week, and that is on Om. Om, there was a question asked by Uma last week, and she wanted to know what is this Om, and I thought of just reflecting on it just for 5 minutes. This is a very, very deep topic. Om is the name of Atma. How it gives out the meaning of Atma, I'll explain to you in a short while. First thing we should know about Om is it is a sound symbol. when I see Lord Krishna or Lord Venkateshwara or Lord Muruga or Lord any Lord in a pictorial form, it is the form symbol. When I go to a temple and look at Christ, it is a form. When I see the cross, that is a symbol of Christ, of the ultimate Atma, of the ultimate one principle in this universe. So when we use sound, because we are all human beings, we can use sound, we can use form, we can use touch, we can use taste, we can use anything, and for contemplating on the higher reality, which is Atma. So this sound symbol, Om, the sound Om is a symbol for meditating on the Lord. It's meditating on my own consciousness principle. It is eternal. That Om sound expresses perfection. It expresses infinity. It expresses the seed of cosmos. It is from that sound they say that this entire creation has come out. It is a union of the body, mind, and spirit in one sound, Om. When I utter Soham, it means you are meditating on that sound and you know that it stands for that reality, and then you take that sound symbol, Om, and say, Soham. I am that ultimate pure consciousness. When it is realization at an individual level, it is called as Soham. It is the breath principle, but it is the life principle in this entire universe, which we have seen just now. That's why I kept this to the end, so that this entire talk you can conclude with this Om. It's the truth of the universe. It is related to the rhythm, the vibration of the universe, because the whole universe is moving in a rhythm. There's vibration in the universe at a cosmic level. At the individual level, this Om sound is connected with the Ajna chakra. Atulji, people who are familiar with meditation and the 5 chakras, this Om sound is connected with the Ajna chakra at the center of the forehead. It is heard in the deepest meditation by your yogi. So when you stop all the sounds, don't even chant Om, automatically you will hear the sound Om. That is the final unstruck sound of the reality. They say that that's the Om is a sound of that ultimate Atma. It represents intuition and self-knowledge in us. They say that when you hear the wind, or when you hear the waves in the ocean, or now scientists have come and said that there is a sound which is there in the sun's illumination every day. They have heard that sound and they say the sound is Om, which is reverberating in the sun. In the whole nature, in the symbol, the Om is the eternal sound of that supreme being. It is the truth of the universe, both in the manifest and the unmanifest form. Manifest means what is perceived in the waking, dream, and sleep. Unmanifest means what is in our deep sleep, which is all in the causal form. That represents Om. When mind is calm and the body is relaxed, we can hear this Om in our own self. We can use this Om for meditation. One of these, if we are successful, if you are interested, I will explain to you how Om meditation is done through this waking, dream, and sleep states. It's a very beautiful meditation, and well, let's see if we are able to do it sometime. With this, I conclude today's talk, and I'll open up for discussions and any questions.
Chinese
Yes.
one.
Shekhji, namaste.
Yeah, tell me.
This is Shama here. Namaste.
Yeah, Shama, tell me.
And first thing to say is that how absolutely wonderful your talk is. Wonderful. This is my
Yes.
first time I'm listening. I really enjoyed it. The question which I wanted to ask you was just in reference to Om itself.
Yeah.
How
Yes.
is the actual symbol Om? And I know it's an akara, but then how the Chandra Bindu and that gets incorporated. So just really, it's a more kind of a literal question I'm asking regarding the symbol itself, how that came to exist. Akara.
Yes, I'll explain to you in a minute. See the akara, ukara, and makara, which is the U and Ma.
Okay.
These three stands for the waking state, dream state, and the sleep state. And the Chandra Bimba, which you see that on the top, that one represents the Turiya, the fourth state, which is called as the Atma state. So beyond the waking, dream, and sleep, which is described by the word A, U, and Ma, Om, the sound symbol represents the three states, manifest conditions and the unmanifest conditions. Beyond this manifest and unmanifest condition is the Turiyam state, which is represented by the Chandra, the Chandra Bimbo, which we see in Om.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, Shama. There is another question from who creates the vibration in the mind in the waking state? The creation, the vibration is created by the law of karma. In this universe, it is the Lord who is waking us all up. The vibration is created by our actions. We have to fulfill certain actions during the day, all of us. It's like a seed which sprouts every day. When the right time for the seed comes in, when the rain comes in, the seed sprouts and it becomes the plant and a tree. So the right sprouting time is decided by the law, which is given by Ishvara or the Lord. The Lord controls this whole universe. All our karma theory, which I will explain next week, is through the law of karma. It is the law of karma decides when each individual will wake up into a certain condition outside. He will reap the benefits or he will reap either joy or sorrow. That is the end result of all our actions. So action and the results are the special characteristics of every karma. It is a karma, that means it is the action, it is the individual jiva's karma which decides the vibration. It is not the Lord who is creating the vibration, it is the jiva ultimately is responsible for this vibration. So Ramesh, does it answer your question? Okay, so then there's another question from Murli. Maya is very powerful and it prevents many of us to realize the efforts in this birth. By any chance we don't succeed, can I understand that my efforts during this birth will not be futile? Yes, you are right. In the chapter 8 of the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord very clearly says in the Gita that no effort of ours will ever be futile, especially in the spiritual field. All our efforts will have fruit. And you will find that in the next birth, I will start where I left. In my meditation, in my evolution towards reaching the final goal, there is no loss. We are in a continuous process. In the previous births, maybe you have done certain actions which has given you this opportunity to learn about Atma. Again, you will continue in your next birth. Then there's, is there any other question anybody else would like to ask at this stage? Ishvara is a projection of the mind. Is it separate from Brahman? Ishvara is a projection of the mind. Is it separate from Brahman? Okay, good, very good question. See, Ishvara is a concept. Ultimately, we are looking at it from our body. When we are looking at the totality, we are looking at it with reference to this body and this mind. So even the concept of Ishvara is a creation of the mind of the individual. It is not a creation of the ultimate reality. Ultimate reality is just Sat, Chit, Ananda. What they say ultimately is, when we realize this Brahman, then this Jiva distinction, Jiva, Ishvara, Jagat, this entire three, the triad itself becomes Mithya. Mithya means it appears, but it is not existing in Brahman. So from the ultimate concept point of view, Ishvara is also Mithya. Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara, all of three are Mithya. They are appearances. They are not existent Satyam. There is only one Satyam in this entire universe, which is the Atma.
So basically, they are objects of experiences.
Yes, yeah, exactly. You're right.
They are, yeah, okay. And they appear in consciousness.
Yes, you're right. Absolutely right.
And they appear in consciousness.
Yes, they appear in consciousness and they disappear in consciousness.
Okay.
All the three, the entire waking world, dream world, and the sleep world, Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara, all of them, they rise from consciousness. They exist in consciousness, they disappear in consciousness. That consciousness is what I claim as me, the Atma.
So Brahman plus Maya is Jiva, Ishvara, and universe.
Exactly. Your understanding is perfect. Perfect.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Yeah. The moment we wake up, why do we go back to the thought where we stopped before we went to sleep? Why not with a new thought? That's from Jagdish to everyone. This question is, why don't we wake up with the same thought as we go to sleep? The law of karma is a very, very complex, and it is. There are many factors which are responsible why we wake up, what time we wake up, and what is the first thought. Nobody can say that I will wake up with this thought or that thought. There is some universal law which governs our thoughts. So the last thought need not be the first thought, but generally speaking, we see that what we have remembered last before we sleep, we wake up with a similar memory. Or most of us, when we get up, we get up from our dream. So our first thought is, oh, here I am. Then immediately when the ego comes in, the ego enters the body and says, yes, I have to do so and so. I have to, all my actions for the day come up, and then the whole day starts for me. Lavanya says, if Atma is beyond Ishvara, even technically an atheist can realize his or her consciousness too. Yes, you're right. He can realize only. The problem is he doesn't know how to realize this. An atheist is a person who has no belief in higher consciousness. Even if you see, he doesn't believe in it. He doesn't believe in Ishvara. Atheist means a person who doesn't believe in God. He believes that there is no God, there is no world, there is only me and the world, and if my body dies, that's it. That's the end of the world. That's an atheist. There's no God. Now, the reason is, even for a person who is interested to know about God, there is a process which has been developed by the scriptures. Only if you follow that process, you will reach that final understanding about Atma. So I hope this answers the question about atheists. Shama is asking, why is the mirror of the mind so dull that it cannot reflect the true nature of Brahman, and Maya overwhelms us? See, the nature of mind is a very, very complex phenomena, which is what is called as that Maya. And this mind is, like I said, it is mixture of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. It is not 100% Sattvic. If it is 100% or 80, 90% Sattvic, it will reflect the Atma and there's no more knowledge required. But that is how the creation is. The mind is evolving over a period of time for all of us. And it is this mind which ultimately says, I am not this mind, I am that Atma. It drops itself. It is like the pole vaulter who goes up the pole, drops the pole to swing to the other side. That swinging to the other side is dropping the mind itself. In meditation, it's very easy to do that and just tell yourself, I am that pure consciousness. I am not the mind. It's a very good question, Shama. I'm very glad you pointed this out. We will end the session now because it's 7:30 here in Singapore. People have come from other cities. I hope you have enjoyed. Before I conclude, I just want to announce that next week will be the last session of Tattva Bodha, and we will be sending out a small survey. Jacqueline will send by WhatsApp a small survey for what to do, for deciding what to do after this 5th session. Either we stop, or if some people are interested, I can take up another text, which is a basic text. The entire spiritual science can be divided into 4 parts. The first is called as a basic course, which consists of Tattva Bodha and Atma Bodha. The second course is an intermediate course, which is purely Bhagavad Gita. Third course is the advanced course, which is Upanishads, where there are 10 Upanishads which we can study. And the last one is a text called as Vichara Sagara. It is purely a very, very advanced text, only for those people who want to realize the self and through logic, through a very, very beautiful logic. That text is the last text because our mind has to be extremely sharp to understand the text of reasoning. This is a 4-pronged approach to the study of spiritual science. When I started Tattva Bodha, I just thought that it will just be 4 or 5 sessions and there'll be about 4 or 5 people who will be interested in this. I never thought there'll be a big group like this which have come up. Jacqueline is going to be the coordinator of the team, is going to send a survey. For those people who are interested to continue the study of this pure consciousness through a textbook called as Atma Bodha, which consists of 68 verses. We will take 6 verses approximately per session. It will have notes, but I will not refer to the notes much. I will talk to you briefly about each verse, and we'll run through the whole text in about 10 sessions. If you are interested, please indicate, please fill up the form today or tomorrow or whenever at your convenience before next week. We will be dismantling this group, and we will keep only those people who are interested in learning Atma Bodha. We will send the study materials, and we will also be doing some meditation exercises for 10 to 15 minutes during these sessions, some of the sessions. As usual, I will send some videos just to enhance the study, which you can watch at your leisure. For today's session of Tattva Bodha, I will be sending 3 videos of 3 verses. roughly for about an hour. If you are interested to study a little bit deeper, please go through those videos. But please give me a feedback about how these sessions have been. Even if you have attended one session, if you're interested, please fill in so that we can put you into the WhatsApp group for the study of Tattva Bodha starting on the 16th of May. So with that, I close, and we will have some meditation sessions because a few of the participants have indicated interest in meditation, and it will be purely based on the study of our texts. It will be a 10-minute, how to think, how to bring those thoughts, what I have learned in Shravanam, in listening, when I'm contemplating upon those texts, upon those verses. This is the main method of trying to assimilate what I have heard through a talk. My focus of teaching is not only to give you the knowledge, but I also want you to absorb and assimilate that knowledge so that you can transform yourself and say, I'm a new person. I have understood the scriptures. That is not in this. It's not in the audio. It's not in the videos. It's not in my laptop. It's in me. That Atma, which the scriptures are revealing, I have realized it. I have found my peace. I have found my security in that Atma. That is the ultimate of this entire spiritual study. If you would like to continue, please let us know. Then we will decide whether we start on the 16th or we close with next week's session. Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you and good night.